use that one.
One of 3 video casts here at Easy Odds as we look forward to the Cheltenham Festival next week. Jake Johns is with me to peruse all the races. We're going to have this is the championship video cast, which I think is really interesting with the changing weather and all the different plans going all over the place, especially from the big yards and Willie Mullins. Then we'll have a look at the novices in a separate video cast, and then the handicaps as well, where we're just beginning to get a shape on the handicaps at the moment as well. Let's start with the big one, Jake.
Yep.
We know where you stand as far as the Gold Cup is concerned.
Yeah.
But there's another factor that's going to come into play between now and the end of next week. We know Cheltenham's had a lot of rain on the Wednesday.
Yeah.
But the weather forecast is quite forgiving next week, isn't it?
Yeah, well, I'm obviously with Don Cossack, as everyone knows, who's seen these videos before, but it all depends on the weather. I think he'll go well on any ground. I think he's a better horse on good ground, as he showed at Aintree last season, in that amazing performance ahead of Q Card in the Milling Chase. But I just think, I think he's still my pick overall. I think I prefer Davy Russell on him than Brian Cooper at the moment. Just because I don't think Brian Cooper gets on with him that well all the times. He hasn't run as well as he has done in the past. It's been with Brian Cooper on board.
Davy Russell's more a man for the big occasion.
Exactly, yeah.
He's been there, seen it.
Exactly. So not that I don't think Brian Cooper's a great jockey. I think he's a very good jockey, but I think there's a lot of pressure on him now to ride well. So I just and there's no pressure on Davy Russell. Obviously, there's pressure because it's a Gold Cup, but I think he would be the man for me. And it looks like it's leaning towards that way in the betting. Last time I saw Brian Cooper was 1-2 to ride Don Poli. I just fancy. I think Don Cossack's got the best form in the race overall. He was a bit disappointing last time when he ran a bit lazily. He seems to run a little bit lazily this year, but he ran lazily in Kempton as well, and it looked like he probably was going to win there. The vibes about Vortor aren't good at all. Don't go on that because obviously there weren't good vibes about him last year as well before the GLT, and he absolutely hacked up there. But I'm not sure he'll stay, to be honest. People are obviously saying that he's going to stay, but I'm not 100% certain. He's obviously got good festival form. But yeah, my pick's definitely Don Cossack.
Okay, could come down, or I suppose almost, to what the weather does in the middle of the weekend. This time last year, the weather was set fair for the whole week, and then on the Thursday night, all the way through Friday, it rained, and we had no idea the forecast was going to be that way. No. This race, for me, is hugely weather-related.
Yeah.
And I think if it is good ground, I think you'll see Don Cossack and Vator coming up the hill together, and I think Don Cossack will outstay Vator. But if it's genuinely soft ground, I can't see beyond Don Poli, because I think it's a negative against all the other runners, apart from Jacket Hammer. I don't think... his jumping scares me.
He's fallen twice, yes. Yeah.
So you're going to go Don Cossack.
Yeah.
I'm actually going to sit back. I'm going to wait until Wednesday, Thursday, until I know the weather forecast. I think it's really pertinent that you do that if you haven't had an anti-post bet.
Can't forget about Q Card either.
Obviously, well, Q Card he's a sort of a... We're going to call him a man for all seasons almost. He acts on all ground. And he's turned over a new leaf with that. There's two things, isn't it? The breathing operation he had. And the other thing that I think people underplay is what's happened at Colin Tizard's yard, this new barn, which has loads of light coming into it. It faces the right direction, so the wind blows through the barn, and people laugh at that. In fact, I spoke to Dally Mullins yesterday, he said, no, don't underrate that. It's a huge, huge factor. Because all his horses are running.
Yeah, something's happened, doesn't it?
Yeah,
you can't just ignore. You can't just pretend that his horses haven't got better. They've got much, much, much better. I mean, we've got Thistlecrack, we've got Q Card, we've got hundreds and hundreds of more. So,
but he's a horse that if he wins, apart from Sprinter Sacre, will be the biggest cheer of the week.
It'd be amazing.
Everybody loves the Tizards. So that's where I stand. That's where Jake goes. The love affair continues with Don Cossack, and why not? If you hang on to one horse, don't let the quotes you hear from jockeys and other people in the media put you off. Let's talk about First Aid, Champion Hurdle, fallen apart totally.
Completely.
Likely to be good to soft ground on the tube. That's what the management actually go for. Likely to be a really quick run race as well. And a hugely interesting race. And I reckon a lot of the bookmakers will be offering quite a few tidbits in this race, being sort of the feature race on the first day.
Yeah, they'll definitely be offering something. I'm not sure what it is now. It's hard to get a handle on this race with the two big players going out, and Annie Power's almost definitely going to be going in there now. So, and she's obviously going to be receiving that allowance. I can't have her, to be honest. I think she's too short at the moment. Around she's 7-4, 2-1. Yeah. I think she's a little bit too short at the moment. She could easily hack up, but I'm going to go somewhere else. in the other videos, I've been saying I've been kind of against Nichols Canyon, but now with Arctic Fire and Faugheen out of the equation, I think I'm going to go down that. I've had a long look at this race. I've been looking at through it long and hard.
You've been having nightmares.
I've been looking at horses that I had never thought I would ever think about again, like the new one.
But you have to, don't you?
Yeah,
because it's just fallen apart. Are you almost saying to me that you think Nichols Canyon is an each way bet to nothing at 11-2?
Pretty much. I think he ran well in a slowly run Neptune last year behind Windsor Park in third. He's probably got almost the best form this year in the race, ahead of Identity Thief. That's a great one. I think he'll probably improve for the good ground as well, like a lot of Willie Mullins horses do, or even it doesn't look like they will. Identity Thief is obviously the other one. Ties in that form over Christmas with Nichols Canyon. But I think Nichols Canyon will improve for this good ground more than Identity Thief will. I know that Henry Bromhead thinks that Identity Thief will improve more for the ground as well, and he is improving this year.
But it's almost a stock phrase that trainers come out with. When the better ground comes around, all of our horses are going to improve it.
Everyone says that.
And it can't be right for each and every horse. It just cannot be right.
No, yeah, but I'm going to be sticking with Nichols Canyon at the moment, purely because I think he's the best of a bad bunch, to be honest. That it's kind of fallen apart completely, and it's looking a really weak champion hurdle now. Especially without, I thought Arctic Fire without Faugheen was going to be one of my biggest bets at the festival if they both ran. I thought he was absolutely guaranteed second, absolutely guaranteed. I thought Faugheen was going to win, even though I was against him at the start of the year. His run at Christmas was unbelievable. That's definitely the best run I've ever seen in race. But I was fully with Arctic Fire without, but that's gone, long gone. I've got to just forget about it.
Well, that's the dangers of anti-post betting. And, I was on. Faugheen went after he lost to Nichols Canyon. I couldn't believe it was 2-1, and I was on Arctic Fire 12-1 anti-post. But that's the way anti-post betting goes. You pays your money, you take your chance, you try and grab the value, and all of a sudden it's snatched away. But I agree, it's not a great champion hurdle.
No.
And again, I'm going to wait until the day to see what the going is exactly, and it could well be a race I don't even play. Remember, 4-1 winner at Sedgefield pays as much as a 4-1 winner at the Cheltenham Festival. Yeah. And the other thing we have to tell everybody is that there are going to be so many brilliant offers on easy odds from all the bookmakers on every single day, because they're just trying to beat each other up and being innovative, but they're offering better value now than they have in previous years.
Who would you fancy on good to soft though at the moment?
If it was good to soft, in other words, really decent jumping ground, I agree with you. I think Nichols Canyon would be the one to be on, but I don't
have a massive feeling about Nichols Canyon at all in any way. But if I had to pick one, it would be Nichols Canyon.
Okay, so if he jumps around, he wins in the Queen Mother on Wednesday.
I think the way he jumped at Ascot in the Clarence House last time showed me that he's kind of really matured since his fall in his first run of the season. He jumped a lot better to me. He didn't just go raring off like he used to. Brewboard could kind of control him a little bit more, it seemed. I think if he jumps, I think he's actually quite a good price around evens 4 to 6, 8 to 11. I think that's actually all right as odds-on shots go. That's a very good price. So I think it would be good. It would be good in a few accumulators or timers or whatever if you're into that sort of thing, or if you want to lump on him. I think he's a good bet as well.
And the bookmakers again they'll depending on what happens on day one, they'll try and get him. You could easily see a 6-4 being put in the morning.
Definitely.
For new accounts.
Definitely.
Which of course you've got to do through easy odds. But you could see that coming up 6-4, 7-4, even a 2-1, just to get the multiple number of new accounts into the marketplace.
We both like God's Own as well. Do you still like?
Yeah, I do. I backed him like you at 33s without.
Yeah.
And he's 25s in with now.
Yeah, I think he's 12s without now.
Is he? I mean, so you've got the value. It's almost like if you actually took Jake's and mine's advice earlier on in the season, you could almost have a second horse in the race to back him up. Or you could lay off if you've got an exchange account. And that's how you make money, through the season. But we both agree. I think most of people agree. I spoke to Patrick Mullins on Monday, and he said to me he thought that Underso was a bigger certainty than Duvan.
That's big.
Now, that's from his yard. That's from his yard as well. Because he says he's learned to shorten up into his fences and put himself right, which he wasn't doing before. He was almost like Calamity Jane over his fences and was guessing, but he's not guessing now.
People say Seagull, for example, is saying that he's an accident waiting to happen, but that's not on his Clarence House run. I don't think. I think he was much more careful there. So yeah, I didn't know that, but now I do. He seems like even more.
It's interesting. Isn't it? It's very interesting.
Yeah,
so
God's Own Without is a nice prize.
So God's Own Without, but we think Undersea will win without a fall. I think that's the general view of most people, both people in the game and you and I as well, who are maybe guessing a little bit more than they are. Let's go to Thursday. It's my favourite day. It's because it's dual championship. It's World Hurdle. It's Ryanair Day now, isn't it? Ryanair Hurdle. And the Ryanair Chase as well. And we still don't know the making shape of the Ryanair Chase, do we?
No, we don't know the Ryanair Chase at all. I did a video on this last week. It's very hard to get a hold on who's going to be going into this race, especially with the prices still showing Voltorans, horses like that in it that aren't going to run. But I liked Joss's Hill, who actually beat God's Own last time at Kempton. He jumped a lot better that day, and his jumping has been his main problem since he's gone chasing. Even though he's got great festival form actually. He came third in the Supreme, I think. He came third. No, he came third in the Supreme, third in the Arkle last year. That was a really good run, even though he jumped really badly actually throughout the Arkle.
I think that shows what a great engine he's got.
And good festival form is so important at Cheltenham. I can't stress that enough. Festival form is absolutely vital, as well as Cheltenham form, but festival especially. And he's got two incredibly good runs in Grade 1s already at Cheltenham, and he sorted out his jumping last time at Kempton, where he jumped a lot better. It was a small run, only 4 runners, I think, but he jumped straight, which is incredible, seeing as he was just jumping everywhere, trying to run through the fences usually in times before. But I think he has a great chance at around 10 to 1. He'll be shorter on the day probably when
he'll be single.
Yeah, when we know who's going to be running and stuff. But I think he's almost definitely going to be running. So I think I would take 10 to 1 now probably, rather than wait until the day, just because it's going to be all of these Voltors and horses that aren't going to be running in it are going to be taken out, and then the price is going to be changed. So I'd take 10 to 1 now. Well,
you're going to smile now. Get ready for the smile, because everybody in Nicky Henderson's Open Day, I think there was one camera crew in 11 asked about Joss's Hill, so I took Nicky aside afterwards, off camera, and I said to him, "You love Joss's Hill, you like this massive beam across his face." And he says, since Kempton, he scored absolutely brilliantly.
That's
and
good.
He just wants experience, and he doesn't want deep ground, which is arguably going to be in his favour here as well. I agree with you. I think he's going to start around about 6 or 7 to 1.
So.
If Road to Riches goes in the race, and he's the most likely favourite, I think he's the right favourite. But he doesn't want the ground too deep, and he's got the best form in the race. But there are 2 horses in this race that are unexposed. They're Joss's Hill, and I agree with you. I think he's a talent waiting to burst open and flourish at the Cheltenham Festival, and smashing, trained by Henry de Bromhead as well, who's a brilliant jumper.
He was the other one I picked out in the Ryanair video as well.
I'm just a little bit worried whether it's a bit too early in his career.
I think does he want soft ground? I don't know.
Well, I'm not sure he does. I think Henry probably thinks he won a bumper, didn't he, on good ground or round up. He's run well in really good ground bumpers, so I don't think it'll be a problem. I don't think it's not going to get really quick, is it, at Cheltenham next week? So we're both agreed on Joss's Hill
again.
And if here's another one for you. I'm going to throw this one in as an extra for free. If the ground for some reason comes up soft, have a back to lay on Village Vic, because he's the only real confirmed front runner in the field, and he will trade lower, because that's the only way he knows how to run. And of course, he's proven over the course as well.
Yeah.
World Hurdle time. The unbelievable talent that is Thistlecrack. It's just so hard to see him being beaten if he's in the same form as he's been throughout the season.
Yeah, I can't see him being beaten, to be honest. I think he's one of the bankers of the festival. I think Andy put him up as a banker of the festival at about 5 to 2 at that point, maybe. So that was a decent price then. But yeah, I think he's been unbelievable this season. I was there on trials there at Cheltenham, and that was an incredible performance. Absolutely destroyed a good field. He's just improved so much, much to his odd yard, like we said earlier. I cannot see him getting beaten. There's not a brilliant field behind him. One that I picked out at an absolutely massive price, it's been terrible this season, on pretty bad ground, is at Fisher's Cross, who is trained by Rebecca Curtis, who's also having not a great season at all.
You like that horse, don't you?
Yeah, I don't know why. Well, I do know why. He's got really good form in World Hurdles and at Cheltenham at the festival. Obviously, the festival form is former Albert Bartlett winner.
I tell you what, if that Fisher's Cross wins, actually, if he gets in the first 3, I'll take you out to dinner.
Oh yes.
Okay, because if he's in the first, I tell you,
he's 40 to 1.
He is. Well, he should be 400 to 1 as far as I'm concerned. But that's the great thing about racing. Jake will have a view on something that I don't agree with. I'll have a view on something you'll think is absolute rubbish. It's all about opinions.
He's been very poor this year, but he's run well in 2 world hurdles. He came 3rd behind more of that and Annie Power. He came 4th last season, staying on up the hill. I think people say he wants better soft ground, but I actually think he'll be better on better ground. But Rebecca Curtis is in such bad form. That's one of the reasons that I put a little bit on him at 40 to 1.
But if you back him on the exchanges,
it'll be bigger on the
exchanges.
It'll be huge on the exchanges. There's no point. Yeah, but it's just an outsider that I thought might have a squeak at each way. But
we originally put up on the original anti-post piece, I think it was last October, we put Safir de Rose each way at 25, which is too big, and it's noticeable he's down to 10 to 1. He'll probably start about 7 or 8 to 1. I don't think he can win, but I think he'll be placed again, almost certainly. You can forget about his run last time at Ascot on really deep ground, where he apparently gurgled as well. So those are the championship races. Of those races, Jake, if you're going to have one bet, what would it be? If you're going you're trying to pick a little bit of value, maybe.
Rather than a favourite. I think if you class Ryanair as a championship race, I'd probably have Joseph Hill at 10 to 1 as the value bet at the moment. I think Don Cossack's still pretty good value. I think I got him a much bigger price earlier in the year. I think it's about 4 to 1 now, 4 to 1 joint favourite. That's all right still. But I think probably Joss's Hill. Thistlecrack is rock solid as well at evens. That's still quite good value. But yeah, I think probably Joss's Hill at 10 to 1 if you want to find a little bit of value. I think unless he falls, I think he's very likely to make the frame. So if you want to go each way, then I think that's a good price.
Okay, well, I think I back Joss's Hill, as we've already said in this video cast. But I think if he runs in the Ryanair, I think Road to Riches is an absolute shoe-in at 4 to 1. I think he's head and shoulders above the rest.
He was ridden very strangely, wasn't he, in the Irish Gold Cup? I think you could put a line through that one. You could put a line through almost every runner who ran badly at that day at Leopardstown. Bells Hill, I think he's not without a chance in the Neptune either.
Which we'll talk about in our next video cast. So we have for you a handicap video cast well worth listening to. And don't forget, of course, about the Cheltenham app, which is available now. Download it, so wherever you go, you can look up all the prices and all the different previews as well. And we'll also have a look at the novice races in a separate video.